Hey everybody, I just thought I would make a quick video demonstrating the ZTE Axon 7 that I've had for about 6 months now. This has been my daily driver as far as cell phone usage goes. I've obviously kept the box and everything in, I guess, relatively good shape. I obviously put this back in the box just to kind of show it off a little more. I have the metallic gray variant, if you can kind of see that here. It's a 5.5 inch 2K display. It's supposed to be, quote unquote, the flagship killer of 2016, or so it was called. Obviously, you'll be able to see reviews about this phone that were recorded a couple of weeks before the actual release of the device. But the main point that I was trying to make in this video was to see how durable the phone actually was after about 6 months of time. Now, if you take a look at the see the bottom section where the accessories are, this is the case that comes both with the phone and the case that I've primarily used with the device for almost its entire 6-month runtime. It's obviously a little bit yellowed if you kind of look at it in comparison to the white of the manual there. You can kind of see how it's a little bit yellowed. That's obviously completely normal for a case that is just clear bendable plastic like this, if you can kind of tell. But it's definitely kept the phone in really good shape. Kept it from having relatively pretty much any damage actually at all. Both on the sides and the front and back panels are completely fine. The screen has no scratches. I believe this is a Gorilla Glass 4 phone, so even without a screen protector, which is also included with the phone, I never used it. Your screen should usually be fine. And as you can see, on the back of the device, the camera lens is fine. Fingerprint reader is relatively, it's not scratched. Just every once in a while, some dirt will gunk up in that area and make the fingerprint reader act up a little bit, but I've heard that that's normal with some of these fingerprint scanners, and obviously the port is undamaged. The two mics still work great. The speakers are still working as normal. So yeah, it's honestly been a little bit, a lot better than I actually expected. This is a Chinese phone, so I wasn't sure what kind of experience I was going to get as far as durability goes, and actually so far I've been very surprised. This is a charging brick. Obviously I've taken pretty good care of this. There's headphones as well that come with the device that I used actually only a couple of times, so those are obviously working just fine, as they should, and the charging brick is unharmed as well. Quick Charge 3 has been consistent over the past 6 months as well. No real issues as far as the charging time slowing down. And then as far as the battery goes, I've heard it's normal for most lithium-ion batteries to start wearing out. I mean, obviously it would be much longer than like a nickel-cadmium battery would, but the battery on this phone has been nothing short of fantastic so far. And I'd say it's only dipped in longevity only by a couple percent, if that. I've barely noticed a difference. On the days I use it more, it just seems to be almost as if the phone is only a couple weeks old. So the 2K display, obviously it's not recorded very well here. Oh, there we go. It's a little clearer, but as you can see, it still looks really great. There hasn't been any strange activity as far as how the touch panel is working. There haven't been any dead pixels. The AMOLED display has been great in sunlight. I've just been using auto brightness and had no problems with it. And as far as the auto brightness setting, I actually have it a little bit below half, and it doesn't cause the phone to heat up after all this time, even in a demanding game or something like that. I have not actually felt the device to be hot to the touch. Of course, a little bit warm because the metal is a great conductor for heat, but other than that, it hasn't been anything to where it's uncomfortable and I can't use it or it's turning off by itself. The audio quality has been nothing short of fantastic too. The dual microphones record audio very well, and I've actually used it for voiceovers in quite a few of my videos so far. If you go back and look at my Nintendo Switch commentary, that entire commentary was recorded just speaking into the Axon 7's dual microphones, and it sounds pretty darn close to what you would get from a microphone that's much more expensive, or maybe something that's closer to the actual price of the entire phone. So I've been really impressed with that. It's the best microphone I probably have. I don't have anything on a professional level, so that's been actually really helpful. As far as adjusting to the face buttons, the capacitive touch buttons that don't illuminate at night, it's not that big of a deal anymore. Used to be one of the main complaints that this phone has had, especially when it first came out. But in all honesty, I haven't really minded. After a couple of months, I can just kind of do it by memory, and it hasn't been that big of a deal. The camera, on the other hand, is where I have most of my complaints. When it comes to taking photos, it could be from okay to pretty good, just depending on what you're recording or what you're taking a photo of. If you are in a low light situation, you should probably forget it or use a digital camera or something that has a better CMOS sensor, because both the adaptive brightness or ISO on the camera itself does not function very well. And not only that, but the autofocus, I'll just say, is almost trash. That's my perspective. There may be other people that may have gotten a different sensor, something like that. Obviously, with a Chinese company, it may be possible that they have used multiple CMOS sensors in different phones. It depends. But the one that I received, based on, I can give it the benefit of the doubt because of how affordable the phone is. But honestly, the autofocus is not that great. This really starts to become a glaring flaw when you start to record video. This is supposed to record 4K video at 30 frames per second. That's the maximum frame rate and the maximum resolution that the camera can record at, which obviously that's a great frame rate. That's flagship level frame rate. But I've used this camera in many of my videos, and frames will drop regardless of the video you're recording. I have recorded a video in the car that's probably, I would say, a pretty well-loaded scenario where the car is just kind of jittering all over the place, and it's possible that your camera's just going to drop frames no matter what camera you're using, unless you're using something that's actually a professional camera, or even a point-and-shoot might be able to handle that better. But even in a place where this camera is mounted on a tripod, it will lose frames no matter what. It's not super often. In a 14-minute video, I would say it drops frames about twice, but when it does drop frames, it drops more than one. It will drop about 5 or 6 frames, depending on what you're doing. And that makes editing in Premiere or pretty much any other integrated editing software a nightmare. It's a real bummer, and it's something that's kind of kept me from using the phone as a camera more liberally. The G3 that I'm recording with actually is obviously still a few years old phone, but I think the camera on this phone is far better. So that's the one detracting factor. If you're looking for a phone with a good camera, it's just going to be better to spend more either on a more current phone that is actually a flagship phone from one of the bigger names out there, or to spend the same amount of money for a older version of a flagship from something like LG, HTC, or Samsung, depending on what you're looking for. So besides the camera experience, specifically with the rear camera, I have not recorded very much with the front-facing camera, but actually there have been some instances where with short videos it doesn't skip frames. And please note that the only setting that I have actually tried is the 4K 30 frames per second mode. It may be very possible that if I record in 1080p or just downscale the video or lower the frames per second, it might fix the problem. Obviously, to make good videos, you're going to want 30 frames per second or higher. So I would say keep the frame rate at 30 frames per second as much as you can. But I will not guarantee that with, at the very least, this specific Axon 7, that it will do that consistently. But as far as durability goes, it's been an absolute tank. I was running on the treadmill, pulled the phone off of the side of the treadmill, obviously by having a headphone cord failure by pulling it behind my arm. Phone fell down, hit the actual tread part of the treadmill. I half stepped on it, fell off the treadmill loop, and it was completely fine with no damage. That was with the plastic case on it. Basically, if you can do anything worse than that to a phone without it actually being on purpose, this phone will probably handle it okay. The metal construction definitely helps with the durability on this device. I'd say that in itself is pretty amazing for something that's only $400 and may eventually be less after a few more months when newer devices come out. So that's pretty exciting. If you go and look at bend tests or any other kind of durability test of this phone, that will probably also prove the point that this phone's pretty darn durable for what it is. The only really detracting factor I've had is the camera. Besides that, everything else is top notch. These are probably still the best speakers you'll be able to get on a device like this. They still sound incredible after however long, and that's why I haven't even tried to root or put a different ROM on this phone, because they still haven't figured out how to get the Dolby Atmos technology to work. That's what keeps this phone from sounding great. With headphones, I haven't noticed anything that's dramatically different than other phones out there, just that it's louder. And that maybe the difference from one volume knocker to another, like if you say just hit one of these volume buttons just up one notch, it already does a lot of a difference in volume. So just watch out for that. If you're getting towards the higher end of the volume spectrum, it starts getting super loud. So I hardly ever turn it up all the way up unless I'm using it in a car or something where I would want it to be loud on this end and not loud on the car's end, because that can introduce distortion that you don't want. That's been my experience with it so far after a few months. We'll see how much longer this phone will last. I'm looking to keep it at least 2 years, and the only thing that would keep me from buying a phone like this again would simply just be the camera experience. The fingerprint reader every once in a while won't work, but as you can tell, right, most of the time it's going to work fine. There's never really been any major problems that I've had with a fingerprint reader besides just it misreading whenever my finger's dirty, or if I'm using my left hand. Since I'm a guitar player, my hands are really calloused, so at least half of my fingerprint is probably gone just from my fingertips actually being calloused. I don't know if that actually affects it biologically, but it's very possible that it could. So yeah. Appreciate the time. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you later. Bye.